For this one time, usually we don't deviate from our plan to speak on the Pasha of the week. But here we have Erev Rosh Hashanah. Next week, I don't think we're going to meet. So I was thinking it would be appropriate to discuss some of the aspects of Rosh Hashanah, so that we have a little bit of an approach and understanding what we are doing and the significance of the things that we are doing. You have a spot over here? No? Okay. Rosh Hashanah first of all, we all know Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year, and this term, the head of the year, is not just a way of saying the beginning of the year. We don't call it Chilas Hashanah, which would mean the beginning. We call it the Rosh, the head. And the reason we call it the Rosh is that it provides for the year that which a head provides for a person. The head in the person is that which is above the highest element in the person. And in some way, the head is really in a category by itself. Like a person can understand something, and he can really say and believe this is the right thing to do. And then to go and do it is a separate effort. It doesn't happen automatically. Why is that? It's his own head, in his own mind. He understands this is the right thing to do. And yet, when it comes to doing it, it becomes another battle. The explanation is because the head can perceive, anybody understand what that means? Can realize, can think of things that are much higher than that which his heart can relate to. And this is why he can perceive things and really wants to be at that level. But he is not there yet. He has to really go through and work, sometimes work very hard to get there. Which means the head is on a higher stand than the rest of the body. And yet, on the other hand, the head is that which provides the inspiration for everything. The inspiration for everything in the person comes from the head. And the same is true regarding Rosh Hashanah. The inspiration, the godly inspiration for the entire year occurs on Rosh Hashanah, on this day. This is why, you can look in Shulchan Aruch, it says on Rosh Hashanah you have to be especially careful. You have to be especially dedicated, especially more ruchnisdik, more pure. Why? Am I just playing a game? I'm not really up to it. But Rosh Hashanah, I'm being better than I'm being at other times. What's the difference? I'm the same person. The answer is, because at Rosh Hashanah, this is when the inspiration for the entire year comes, and the simply terms, the better behaved and the more pure that one's activities and thoughts are on Rosh Hashanah, the more inspiration and the higher koiches he gets on Rosh Hashanah. So Rosh Hashanah is a category, is a day by itself, is a category unto itself. Just like the head is in a category by itself. One of the most significant things that we say by Rosh Hashanah, and we know that Rosh Hashanah is clearly centered around Tkiyas Shofar, blowing of the Shofar. And the blowing of the Shofar on Rosh Hashanah, there is two different blowing of Shofar. We blow Shofar every day during the month of Elul. And then we blow Shofar on Rosh Hashanah. These are two different aspects, and they have two different significances. Throughout the month of Elul, we blow Shofar. Shofar has the element, has the nature, that it enters in the person's mind and it touches, so to speak, a very fine chord in the person. You understand what I'm saying? It has a very fine effect. It wakes a person up, and it makes him think of purer things. So throughout Elul, we blow the shofar to wake us up to do tshuva, to remind us, like the Rambam said, to remind us that there are finer things than being involved in worldly things, and we want to and arouse us and inspire us to reflect on our lives and to try to better and elevate our way of life. This is the shofar of the month of Elul, in preparation for Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, the shofar of Rosh Hashanah has a different significance. They're related, but they're quite different. Rosh Hashanah, the shofar of Rosh Hashanah is a shofar that is sounded when the king gets coronated. When the king gets coronated, what coronated means? You put a crown on him, you declare him as king. When the king becomes coronated, accepted by the people to be king, you blow the shofar. And the significance of that blowing of the shofar is not to arouse anything, but it is to make a statement. And the statement is that something very, very special has just now occurred. Why does the shofar represent this something very special? There are different levels of consciousness, of thoughts that a person goes through. A person learns something, says, "Oh, this is a wonderful thought. Let me tell you what I just learned." A person can see something that's very unusual. He hears a story of a miracle, very unusual, and he talks about it. The deeper that a person is touched by some thoughts, by some occurrence, the less he can talk about it. Sometimes a person gets so excited that he can't even talk about it, because it's more than he can. In order to speak, a person has to be able to calm down, and speech comes one word after the other. You can't just say what you have in mind. You have to think and produce and describe what you're thinking. Sometimes the thought is so deep, is so all-encompassing, you can't express it in words, and you can't express it in a sequence of words. You express it in a sigh, you express it in a scream. sometimes in a song, but in words it's hard to express it. Shofar is one means of expressing such a thing, such an excitement, such an experience that is beyond contemplation, but beyond thought, something that touches the person in the very core of his life. This is what the shofar of Rosh Hashanah, it represents an occurrence that is beyond description by words, beyond thought. It's an occurrence of very special significance. Such a significance that the only way to express it and to show that something is happening is by blowing the shofar. And what is this special thing? This special thing, as I said before, is the coronation of the king. Thus, it means that coronation of the king is very, very special. So special that it touches us in such a fine way that it brings out just a shofar sound, nothing else. Therefore, it behooves us to think and reflect on a personal level. This is not just words. What does it mean? Just like I ask you, what's Mashiach mean to you? What does it mean, the coronation of the king? Behooves, it's appropriate. It's right for us to think. What does it mean? He's saying it's such a great thing, such a special thing. We can only express it by blowing the shofar. What's so special about it? This time I give the answers. The king in the Sforim, in the Torah, in various references, is called the head, the Rosh B'nai Yisrael, the head of the Jewish people. And the king is also called the Lev, the heart of the people. It's called the head of the people and the heart of the people. And I want to address both of these references. The head and the heart are the two parts in the person, the two organs in the person that are they're the most important, the most significant, but beyond that, they actually represent the whole person. They represent the whole person. There's a difference, however, between the head and the heart. The head, this is the seat of the brain. This is the seat of the neshama, of the nefesh. This is the beginning of life. A bar mitzvah boy once came into the Rebbe before his bar mitzvah. And the Rebbe spoke to him and asked him whether he learned the halachas, the dinim, associated with putting on the tefillin. And he said he did. So the Rebbe asked him, what tefillin do you put on? So you put on the hand, on the left hand, and you put on the head. So the Rebbe asked him, what happens a person, or God forbid, can't put it on his hand, he doesn't have a hand. So he asked him that then you put it on the head only. If a person doesn't have a hand, God forbid, you can put the head film on. So the Rebbe said, and what happens if a person doesn't have a head? Okay, what was this laughter that we all spontaneously responded? If it doesn't have a head, there's no person. There's no person. If it doesn't have a hand, chas v'shalom, there's a person. If it doesn't have a head, there is no person. Wait a second, but he's got all other limbs. He's got so much going for him. There's no person. All the head does, is a little brain, a little thought process, a little spirit. No persons, nothing there. This is an extremely important concept to understand. Not you. You're not the one. This is an important, very important part of Yiddishkeit to understand. I mentioned many times in these classes that the Rebbe made the human being different than all other creatures in the world. And one obvious difference is that he walks on 2 feet and his head is on top. Other animals, the head and the body are on a straight line. And what does this symbolize? What does this represent? This defines a difference between this about the human beings. By human being, the most important element is the fact that he has a head. And the fact that he acts according to what his head directs him to do. The fact that he feels what the head tells him he should feel. His emotion, everything is dependent on his head. I think I may have mentioned it here. I probably did. I don't know if anybody was here at the time that I mentioned it the first time. We took the family one time, the children, years ago, to a museum of natural history. Anybody know what that is? Museum of Natural History is a museum where they show history of nature, of different animals, prehistoric animals, all kinds of different things. Natural history. And so I was walking through the display hall, and there were many windows, display windows, and they showed, so to speak, the form of certain animals. Here, one animal, another animal, and they described the nature of these animals, where they lived, and when they became extinct, when they no longer exist. And I'm going from one window to the other. And mostly they're showing in these windows really the ugliest creatures you'd want to see. Really, no refinement at all. And the form in which they show them is how one eats up the other. And they're describing on the caption of it there. The caption, these animals lived in this part of the desert, and they lived there for many years until the humans came. Until the humans came. You know what humans are? The human being, the person. Until the humans came and they populated the area and these animals had to go away, and then they became extinct. You go to the next window, another bright animal over there, and again, it survived and it flourished until the humans came. Another one until the humans came. And you go back from one minute to the other, and say, "Wow, what a horrible thing the humans is! What a curse!" And then I thought to myself, and I'd like to meet this genius who made this inscription and ask him one simple question.
I'd like to meet a human.
I want to ask him a very simple question. Tell me, what would the world be if not for the humans? Imagine the world, all the animals are roaming the fields. They have a free day, a free for all. No humans. What's the value of the world? What's the world worth? What's it for? Does it stand for anything? Does it represent anything? The human being is a very, very special godly creation. We have to understand, we, Yidden, are special within that category. Because to us, God gave His Torah. It's a very, very special creation. This is a creation that truly represents the godly presence in the world. He has the intellect, he has the brain, the mind that knows truth from falsehood, good from bad. And this is why the human being, naturally, what Rebbe created him is that the head is on top. The head is the smallest part, relatively speaking, from the rest of the body. In the head, there's the brain, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the ears. All the finest senses are all in the head. Everything. What does this tell us? It tells us that the spiritual element of the human being, which is contained in his brain, physically may it be the smallest and the weakest, that is nevertheless the real human being. This is the real thing. This is what the human being is about. Not for the power of his muscle, not for the power of his foot, for the power of his brain. You say every day in davening, I don't know how, I know you know Hebrew, so you know the times. You say every day in davening, in Loi b'gvuras asus yechpot, Loi b'sheker hayish yitze. Roitze Hashem es Yireyov. The Yireyov, Yiras Hashem, the cognizance of Hashem, this is what the human being is about. Physical power and all that, this is not the core and the essence. And this is not what gives the world value, because there is a human being who has power, physical power. So this is the head. The Melech is called the head of the people, which means that you have a people we once spoke on the following very simple piece of logic. 1 and 1 equals to 2. Who says maybe 1 on 1 equals to 1 on 1? Right? 1 on 1 equals to 1 on 1. What brings these two ones together and say, no, 1 and 1 is equal to 2? Who correlates them? They're two separate entities. The human being knows that there is unity in the world, that there are many units, but there is also unity. There is actually echod, and everything in the world actually comes from one. So therefore, he can correlate and says, yes, it's 1 and 1, but it's 2. He understands that there is correlation between different units. Amongst human beings, the way things are in our world, every individual person is an entity unto himself. What correlates the Jewish people and makes it into a people? Just like in a human being, he has hands and feet and all the entire human structure. What makes it all into one? The head. Because they're all inspired by the same brain, by the same spirit. This is what correlates. The same is true on a national basis. The Jewish people consist of many separate people. What unites them into one people is the fact that they have a head. This is the Melech. The Melech is what unites them into one people. This Inyan that the Melech unites them in one people is not just like the head in a person. The head is not just ruling the body. The head gives the chayus, the inspiration. Without the head, the body has no inspiration for anything. The Melech, this is the inspiration for the people. This is the spirit, this is the chayus. This is the meaning for the people. Just like the meaning of a human being is his head, the Melech is the significance of the entire people. So that when there is a coronation of the king, which means that now the people have become a people with a head, a real people, not just bodies, not just hands and feet and mouths, but a head, that calls for the sound of a shofar. You understand? There's no other...
That calls for the head?
For the sound of the shofar.
For the sound of the shofar.
Right before that? When there is the coronation of the king.
Now the people have a head. When you have a head, you have the whole people. You have the reality. There's no way to describe what that does. Just like when we asked what happens if a person doesn't have a head, what does he do with feeling? Everybody laughed. Always a laugh because there's nothing to talk about. The head makes him a human being. The king is what makes the people into a people. This is not just some additional element. This is the real thing. This is the whole people. So this is the Tkiyas Shofar, on Rosh Hashanah, which represents the coronation of the king, which means now we have a Melech. The Rebbe consented to be a melech in the world. And once he's a melech, there's a real thing. There's real life. There's real spirit. The melech is also called the heart of the people. This is the element of being the head of the people. He's also called the heart of the people. Melech, the Rambam says, Hu Leiv Ha'am. Leiv is the heart of the people. What is the additional description, additional meaning of the melech being the heart? So to understand this, we have to discuss another element, another aspect that Chassidus brings down. Chassidus says that by a melech, the people and the melech are one thing, so that ein melech b'lo am. Anybody hear this term? Ein melech b'lo am. There cannot be a king without a people. The Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, but melech, malchus, is only applicable to a people. If a melech, a person, has many sons, he can have 1,000 sons, they don't make him into a melech. A melech is only when he has a people that he is a melech. Ein melech b'lo yam. What is the real significance of this statement, Ein melech b'lo yam? Just like we described before in a human being, that he has a head, and the head, this is the real essence of the human being, the spirit that inspires the whole human being. But at the same time, we understood that it's possible for a person to understand something in his head and not be able to follow through on it. And in order to come and really relate to it and experience it and feel it and act on it is a separate effort. And it's called Kriyas Yamsuf. He has to go through the Yamsuf again. It's a whole effort, a whole battle. Why? Because that which the head is able to conceptualize can be so much higher than where the person is, that to bring it down is a whole effort. What is the intermediary? What is the means by which the concept of the head comes to the rest of the body? So Malchus is both the head and it is the heart, because the next receiver from the inspiration of the heart, of the brain, is the heart, is the feelings in the heart, and the heart then disseminates. What disseminates means it spreads out through the blood. The heart pumps the blood, and through the blood, the heart disseminates, or spreads out the life force throughout the entire body. So the head has the life, the initial life. The heart gets the inspiration from the head, and then spreads it out to the head, to the rest of the body. Without the heart, the head could not inspire the rest of the body. There's too much of a gap. It doesn't go. If you learn, I'm sure you learn, but I don't know if you were taught that part in the Tanya, when the Tanya says, "Machshava toiva HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzarfa lamaisa." The Alter Rebbe explains that a ma'aseh, when a person does a mitzvah has to be done with kavanah. A mitzvah has to be done with Abba Paltiel, with real inspiration. Sometimes a person, not everybody is able to reach that level of inspiration of Abba Paltiel. Sometimes a person can only reach a level where he understands this is the way it should be, but he's not really up to it. This is called machshava tov, a good thought. So this, he understands in his brain that this is the way it should be, but he's not up to it. So this cannot inspire the action because it's too remote. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem, Mitzarfa, he connects it and makes it considered as if he had done the action with full inspiration. That's what the Alter Rebbe explains. So from the head to the hands and to the rest of the body, it's not possible. It doesn't go direct. This is too remote and too hard. But it goes through the head, through the heart, through the inspiration, the emotions. And then the emotion can respond to the head, to the spirit of the head, and that then disseminates and brings the chayus into the rest of the body. So, having said that, if the melech were only the head, what would be the relationship between the people and the melech? The melech would be in his palace. The melech would give out decrees, and there would be no communication, no connection. But the melech has nothing to do with me. The only thing that the melech can do, he can punish me. But is that our relationship to the melech? Relationship to the melech is a real relationship. The melech, there is dedication. There is Abba Paltiel to the melech. Not just scared, oh, what happens? I made a mistake, boom, boom. That's not the relationship. That's not what a melech is. This is why it says that the melech is not just the head. The melech is also the heart. The melech actually relates directly to the people. To the extent that we say, Ein melech b'lo yam. The people, makes him into a melech. Without the yam, he is not a melech. He can be a great man. He can be a genius. He can be a holy man. But a melech is only when there is an am. So this is the special thing of this coronation of the king. Not only that we have a melech, we have declared a melech, and we sound the shofar because we have a head, but we have an actual relationship. The melech has consented, has agreed to be our melech. Has agreed to be our heart and to bring the chayas and the inspiration to us directly. Once there is a connection, an established connection between the melech and the people, that connection cannot possibly be broken. This is not like two separate things that get connected. The melech and the am become one thing. So this is the very special message, a very special occurrence that happens on Rosh Hashanah. On Rosh Hashanah there is the coronation of the king. This coronation of the king requires that the people relate to the king, because a king without a people is not a king. This is why on Rosh Hashanah we are very careful to be especially good, so to speak. We say Tilim a lot and we daven and so forth. This is not out of fear of punishment that we do. This is out of love and our desire to be united with Hashem. This connection, this dedication that the people have to the Melech, this is what actually makes the Melech into a Melech. So that the Melech and the people are really one thing. And once the people and the Melech become one thing, then wherever the people are, this is where the Melech is. They cannot be separated. This is what you have learned in today's Parsha. Okay, so I can correct the Parsha. That wherever Eden are, even in the Golus, when Eden was sent out in Golus, in the Yaspera and the first spread out throughout the whole world, wherever the Eden are, Hashem automatically goes with them. Because they cannot be separated. Hashem helped around that I should connect it back to the Pasha. I didn't think of it before. Huh? Nitzovim. V'shov Hashem alekecha eshvuscha. V'shov Hashem alekecha eshvuscha. Rashi says that Hashem comes back with us together because He was in Golus together with us.
Invention.
I'm sorry?
Like invention. Shuvah Hashem Asher B'Seinu.
No, that's
Not
Shuvah Hashem. No. Okay. Then the Pshat Eshvus, which was Hashem Himself will return. Okay. So the message from, for this week, message for Rosh Hashanah is, Rosh Hashanah is a time Eden are capable of representing two completely opposite elements, even though they seem to be contradictory, and yet we can combine two things and not contradictory. Rosh Hashanah is a very serious time, and we are very careful to do the right thing, and not to waste any time, and be careful. Whatever we do, we should do it with sincerity and truthfully and so forth. And at the same time, it's a joyous time. Because while we are involved in the coronation and establishment of kings, there is no greater joy than being in connection to the Hashem. There's no greater joy than that. There's no greater gift, no greater status that a person can acquire, can have in life, but for the fact that he is Hashem's servant. And he has the opportunity to carry the king. So, in conclusion, this is a serious time, this is a very significant time, a very, very touchy time. That's why it's expressed in blowing the shofar, because there's no other way to express what is going on in our mind and heart at the time except by blowing the shofar. This is bigger than anything we can say with our mouth and anything. Rosh Hashanah should be a day for us where Hashem accepts our tefillos and He accepts the coronation that we give him. And he should ultimately, as we say in davening, reveal his rulership over the world, so that the whole world should recognize Hashem's reign. This will ultimately redeem us completely from our dolus, and we will go out of the dolus together with Hashem, with our King, together with Hashem. Also, that's what it says in the Torah. So, preparation for Rosh Hashanah, we have to know, we have to be besimcha, and at the same time, we have to know the significance of everything that we do in that preparation. Essentially, we are the ones who are making the king into a king. Atzlocha, should have a good year. Ksivach Sima Tova.
You too, Rabbi.
Thank you very much. Thank you. In good health, physically, and good health spiritually, and growth. Physically, you're all for Hashem fully grown, and you should grow the guy by ruchnis, both in terms of the head and also in terms of the head of the heart. Intellectually and emotionally. All the best.
Amen.
Amen.